Hey everybody, and welcome to another inspiring episode of FoundersGyan. In case you're tuning in for the first time, we feature the inspiring story of a startup and the founder behind it each week. This week we are talking to Neha Bagaria, the founder of JobsForHer, that is JobsForHer, all as one word, .com. JobsForHer is a platform that aims to provide jobs for women who have taken a break in their career and are trying to re-enter the workforce. They are also running a huge drive to raise awareness and recruit women during International Women's Day, and this drive runs from March 6th to March 11th. And FoundersGyan is proud to bring you this episode to coincide with the same. So go ahead, check out jobsforher.com and register yourself if you are a woman who's trying to re-enter the workforce after a career break. The diversity drive is from March 6th to March 11th, but JobsForHer welcomes women who have taken a break any time of the year. Don't forget to check out the show notes over at foundersgyan.com/EP29 and www.foundersgyan.com/top for the top listened podcasts. Alright, fasten your seatbelts. Let's get the show on the road now. Neha Bagaria, welcome to the show. Great to meet you, and I'm super excited to speak with you today. Neha is the founder of JobsForHer.com, a connecting portal for women who wish to restart their careers after a break, whether the break was for life events like marriage, motherhood, elderly care, or other personal reasons. JobsForHer will help get your career back on track. An entrepreneur at heart, Neha founded her first company, Paragon, right after she graduated from the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania. When marriage brought her to Bangalore, she started working with Chemwell, a contract pharmaceutical manufacturing company. Neha took a break in her own career when she had her children. During this personal journey, she became aware of the various difficulties a woman faces in order to re-enter the workforce. And thus the idea of JobsForHer was born. More on that later. Neha, great to meet you, and thanks a lot for taking time out of your busy schedule to share your knowledge, wisdom and time with our listeners. Thank you for agreeing to be on the show.
Thanks, Ram. It's good to be here.
Okay, great. Neha, so can you fill in the blanks from the intro about your journey before JobsForHer? Did I get everything right?
Sure, yeah. Ram, that was a good snapshot, I must say. To just give you a little bit more details. So I'm originally from Bombay, was born and brought up there, then went to the Wharton School, studied there, complete entrepreneur at heart. In fact, I started Paragon, which was my first venture, right after B School. And that was for students who wanted to get credits and placements into foreign universities. So in fact, I brought the advanced placement program back to India, became the college board representative, etc. And then my career went through the similar travels that a woman's career goes through, right? I mean, when I got married, I moved from Bombay to Bangalore. So I switched careers. I joined a pharmaceutical manufacturing business. Never thought I'll stop working. And then motherhood came along and things changed. So I took a break in my career. Planned to take a break for 1 year. And before I knew it, it was 3.5 years that I had taken a break. Had 2 sons. Was loving being a full-time mother. But there was a lot of discontent also growing. And which is why I finally decided to get back to work. And when I got back, I jumped back into Chemwell, which was a company I was working at earlier. And the experience was so positive that I started questioning everybody I knew that why aren't you restarting your career? And you can imagine, I mean, my friends are lawyers, MBAs, architects, engineers, extremely well qualified and very ambitious women until the 9th month of the pregnancies. And I started asking them that, hey, your kids are also grown up now. Why aren't you getting back to work? And they said 2 things. One, they don't want to go back to their old companies because their peers have become the seniors, and that's very difficult to digest. And new companies won't take them because of the gap in their careers.
Right.
So when I heard that, I thought that was actually pretty ridiculous. Why would a new company not take them? And that's really where JobsForHer was born.
Okay, excellent. So I can kind of relate, not completely relate, because even my wife took a break after our daughter was born. Our daughter is about 4.5, and again, she also is in a similar situation. Right now, she's kind of not yet ready to restart her career, but when she does, I'm sure I'll make sure she contacts you.
That's perfect.
So now, I did mention in the intro, and you also talked a little bit about the origin of JobsForHer, and I think it's great because I think this is a very understated problem. It's a very relevant problem, but not many people are doing things about it, and I think it's great that you're doing something about the problem rather than just cribbing about it. But can you talk a little bit more about the origin? So you talked about it. Can you explain a little bit more? And also, how is this different from a normal job portal?
Sure. So another appalling fact that I found out was that women were being told, women in India at least, were being told that they need to hide the gap in their resumes if they want to get back to work. And look at the kind of women that we're talking about. These women have put their careers on the wayside to be there for their families, right? They took that break because they in fact place their family needs above theirs. We as a society need to reward women for doing that and not penalize them. When I started talking to companies and started questioning them that why would you not take back women who've had this gap in their careers, pretty much everyone told me that they had no problem in taking these women back. They just didn't know where to find them.
Right.
Which is why I decided that let's test this out and put it out there. Right, so I launched our MVP, JobsForHer.com, which was last March on International Women's Day, and I trumpeted to the fact that this portal is specifically for women on a career break, which means that if a company has a problem with that, don't come to the portal.
Right.
And in less than a year, we have 750 companies on the portal, and
great.
from the likes of Citibank, Dell, Future Group, GE, Unilever, you name it, and they're looking for women coming back.
Right. So also, can you talk about how is this different from a normal job portal?
Sure. So what happens with regular job portals is that many of them are now being run by placement agencies, right? Or say it's a line HR manager who's looking for a particular candidate. Now, those people have been told that, hey, find me a candidate who's doing this particular things in these particular companies.
Right.
When they see a gap in the resume, they don't know how to handle it. And that resume goes to the bottom of the pile.
Mm-hmm.
So on the flip side, women get completely dejected, disappointed, and feel there's no way of getting back.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with JobsForHer, that woman knows that this is specifically for that woman, right? And the company knows that all the resumes that you'll get from here is that gap. So they stop judging the candidate based on the gap, and they start judging the candidate based on her qualifications, on her experience, on her skills, and her ability to get back.
Okay, brilliant. And in your personal experience, does this actually add value to the candidates? I mean, they have taken a break for a not personal reason, for family reasons or whatever. Do the companies actually kind of add some value to that?
Yeah, companies are realizing now that being a mother adds a lot of skills in your ante. You learn multitasking, patience, perseverance, commitment, and you're ready to look at workforce problems from a very refreshing perspective. So one, companies are recognizing that this is a very experienced talent pool, experienced and qualified talent pool that they shouldn't ignore. Right? Second, they're realizing that women, when they're coming back after a break, they're actually settled.
Right.
So the biggest problem that companies have right now is the leaky talent pipeline, right? Where to start with, companies still have about 30 to 40% women at the entry level. It drops to 10% at the managerial level, and then 1% at the CEO level. It's that gap that we're trying to bridge at the managerial level.
Okay, excellent. Now let's talk a bit about idea creation. So for our budding founders listening out there, can you give us some tips on how we can come up with a similar winning idea?
Sure. So I feel like coming up with a winning idea is like finding your soulmate. Okay, when you find your soulmate, you know.
Right.
You know that You can feel it in your bones that this is what you were built to do. Okay, this is what you want to spend your life doing, and that you're in here for the keeps. Whether the battle gets tough or rosy, you will make it happen. It could be anything, and a lot of products are usually based on personal experience. It's important to, I think, dive deep and figure out what are the problems that are occurring around you. And there are plenty in your everyday life. From your drive from home to work, you will find 20 problems that you could look at solving. Which ones of those do you feel you can solve, and in a scalable way?
Okay, great. Now let's talk about ideation to creation. So we all know that idea is worth nothing unless executed upon. So what are the steps that a person needs to follow in order to make the idea into a reality? You could take your own case of JobsForHer and maybe kind of run us through the steps. Okay, you found that there was this problem. So what did you do next? Did you do market research? Did you talk to companies? Did you talk to women? Did you create a portal?
Sure. So the first thing was, of course, to really get to understand that this problem doesn't exist only in my head, right? So the first step I did was talk to a lot of women who were in a similar situation, right? Who had taken a break to understand that, hey, do they really want to get back to work? If they do, what are the challenges? And then how can they be overcome? Second was, of course, to talk to every company that I knew to understand what the challenges were on that side. But I think much more important than that is, as Eric Ries, the founder of the Lean Startup movement, he says to really validate an idea, you need to step out of the building, right? I mean, there's just so much information you can gather by sitting inside a room with your laptop and reading reports. You need to get out there and really understand user behavior, and you cannot do that just by focus groups either. Right? Which is why when I launched JobsForHer, I was very clear that this will be my MVP, my minimum viable proposition. I will use it to understand and validate the space, and then build the main product, which we will be in fact launching in about a month's time, which will then be able to be much more scalable and impactful.
Okay, great. Can you also talk about that main product that you're going to launch? How is it different from what you have now?
So the premise is the same. The problem that we're solving is the same. The main product that we're launching will just be able to solve it in a more scalable way. So the technical functionalities that we're building into that product are very deep.
Okay.
And also, of course, we will make sure that we will keep adding the features that are required on both ends to make the whole process more and more efficient.
Okay, great. Now, let's talk about your family. So we all hear about founders sacrificing family times to make their ventures a success. Now, obviously, in your case, that kind of led to this business. But can you still talk a bit more about family and how you managed to balance your business life and family?
Sure, Ram. I mean, this is the toughest question that every woman in the workforce gets asked, because it is a daily challenge. And, I kid you not, every day I ask myself, every morning when I wake up, I need to make sure that in my calendar I'm penciling in enough time for my work, enough time for my family, enough time for other social responsibilities, because frankly, without any one of those factors, the whole is incomplete, right? So there are certain life hacks that I'm now figuring out as I go through this process myself, and I would love to share those with you.
Sure.
One of them is that you need to build a great team at work, but you also need to build a great team at home. So you need to really rally your supporters, and that includes your mother-in-law, your sister-in-law, your best friend, your cousins, your nannies, whatever you can get to make sure that your family is well taken care of, so that less and less guilt creeps through to you.
Right.
And of course, you need to build a very supportive environment in the workplace where people understand that today if you have a sick child, you will need to be there for that child. Right? Second is, it's like juggling balls, like juggling glass balls. You need to figure out which of those glass balls you need to hold in your hand, which ones you can keep up in the air, right? Every week there might be a different glass ball that you need to hold on to, because otherwise that glass ball will come crashing down.
Right.
Another very important thing, and this is the most important thing when you're trying to juggle it all, is that when you're at work, don't feel guilty that you're not at home, and when you're at home, don't feel guilty that you're not at work.
Right. Okay. Great advice. I really like it. Now, is there a daily or a morning ritual that you follow? can you share it with myself and our listeners? It could be a personal one like working out every day, or a professional one like having a meeting first thing in the morning.
Well, I wish working out every morning was my morning ritual, but I'm sorry to say that it did not even fit into my 2016 resolutions. There's no time for that this year. But something that I've made it a point to put as part of my day is that when I'm on my way home to my kids after a very long and challenging day at work, I need to make sure that I am completely refreshed for my second shift.
Okay.
Right. I need to get back to my kids not with the burdens of the day, but as someone who's happy and who's excited to be with them and give them the energy that they deserve.
Right.
So on my way home, I switch off my mobile, and for 15 minutes I will do my meditation and my pranayam. And then when I get home also till their bedtime, I will keep my phone away. And I think this ritual has really helped in making sure I give my all to my children.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think mobiles have kind of become a big problem, in families. People are on their devices more than talking to each other. So I think it's a great tip, and I'll try to follow it myself. Now, you started JobsForHer on your own. So how do you validate your ideas without a co-founder? Do you have a mentor? Do you have a senior team here in place? How exactly do you make sure that you are on the right path, or maybe you need to change paths? How do you go about the process?
So yes, I am a sole founder of JobsForHer, and it does get lonely at the top, and it would be great to share the burden with somebody else, but luckily I have some amazing advisors and mentors around me. It starts from my younger brother who runs a tech startup to my advisor whose name is Dhruv Shenoy. He used to be the VP of marketing at Monster India and then launched Monster in the Gulf area. So from day one, he's been instrumental in helping me understand how to build a scalable marketplace for the problem I'm trying to solve. Even other advisors like Shubha Kulkarni, she runs a HR consultancy firm called Altissimo. She's been extremely helpful in helping me traverse through the HR jungle of the corporate world. And another advisor, in fact, who's just come on board, who I'm extremely excited about, her name is Meenal Mehta. She is very senior at LinkedIn in San Francisco, and she's helping me with my product strategy going forward. So people like this have been hugely instrumental in helping me clear the cobwebs in my head on where I see the vision of JobsForHer evolving.
Okay, excellent. We are almost halfway through the questions. We just have another maybe 7-8 questions. Sure. Now, can you tell us something about yourself that is not commonly known?
That is not commonly known. There's hopefully a lot that is not commonly known. I can tell you something interesting.
Yeah.
When you asked me about how do you know when you have a winning idea, it kind of reminded me about finding a soulmate.
Right.
I got engaged to my husband a week after I met him and married 6 months later. Okay. So that's a very less commonly known fact. And so obviously there are some things that I know right in the beginning that this is the right one for me.
Okay, great. Now, what's the best advice somebody has given you, or alternatively best advice you have heard and you kind of try to follow?
One of the recent, like a very important advice that I got actually when I was still thinking about starting JobsForHer. My children were only 6 months and 3.5 years old, and I wasn't really sure if I'll be able to manage, right? And finally, one of my personal mentors is also Sejal Gulati. She's the president and MD of Time Inc. India. And she finally one day told me that, Neha, you need to make a decision and go do it. Life will adjust around it. And that is an advice that has really carried me through, and that's something that keeps pushing me to make that decision that I need to make, and voila, life does adjust around it.
Yeah, great one. Because I've had a few other interviews where something similar came up. It was women entrepreneurs, and they were saying things very similar. They were saying things like, don't think that the world will crumble without you at home.
Yes.
Something like that.
Yes, absolutely.
So great advice. So that's good. Now, startups come with a lot of pressure. So give us some tips on how we can handle pressure when things aren't going so well.
By the way, it's not just startups. Motherhood also comes with a lot of pressure. Anything that means a lot to you comes with a lot of pressure. And one of the advantages of starting a business at this age and post experiences like motherhood is that you really keep your eye on the bigger picture. You realize that there are going to be good days and bad days and good times and bad times. But after, going through the tranches, really sticking it out, the rainbow will come at the end of the storm, right? So I think there was a very important phrase that I reminded myself of every day when I had a sick child, and that was, that too shall pass. And that's something that startup entrepreneurs also need to remember. When you're having a problem, when you're going through a bad time, that too shall pass.
Okay, excellent advice. Now, is there any specific advice you'd like to give to women entrepreneurs in general?
So the reason I think people ask that is because there are certain challenges that are specific to women when they become entrepreneurs, right? And I think one of the biggest thing is the internal barriers that we pose on ourselves. When we feel that personal ambition is a bad thing, when we feel that if we are great at the work, then our family will suffer. When we feel that we shouldn't be placing our needs above others' needs, when we feel that we won't be able to manage, right? I think it's extremely important for women to first overcome their internal barriers, because the only walls that really exist are the ones that we build ourselves.
Okay, excellent. Now, let's talk a bit about the diversity drive that you're doing for International Women's Day. I know this podcast is going to be released to coincide with International Women's Day, a day earlier, but close enough.
Sure.
So, can you talk a bit more about the diversity drive that you guys are doing?
Sure, we're very excited about this because for the very first time in India, top companies in India are throwing open their doors for women who've been on a career break. So we are running this diversity drive with companies like Reliance Jio, Sapient, Target, Mindtree, Monthly Developers, Make My Trip, you name it. And it's happening across India in Bombay, Bangalore, Delhi, Chennai. And everywhere, companies are sending out a strong message to women and telling them that, hey, we're looking out for women who've taken a break in their careers and we're welcoming you back to the workforce. All the women need to do is they need to register for it. And the last date of applications are March 6th to 11th, specifically around International Women's Day.
Okay, so they can register on your website, right?
Yes, on the website on JobsForHer.com.
Okay, great. And it's a week-long thing, right? From 6 to 11.
That's right.
Okay, brilliant. Now, can you tell us about your worst entrepreneurial moment and how did you turn it around, or the lessons you learned from that experience?
So I didn't turn that around actually. My worst entrepreneurial moment was when I had to shut down my first company.
Paragon.
Paragon, that's right. And there was a huge lesson that I learned from it, which I made sure I would not repeat in JobsForHer, which was that I did not create a strong enough team right from the beginning. The company centered too much around me, so when I had to leave, the company kind of crumbled. This time around, I'm making sure that we have a strong team, especially when it comes to women and the myriad of responsibilities. It's important that we are there to back each other up and support each other.
Okay, so just talking a bit about Paragon, so things were going well. You had to leave and the company crumbled.
Yeah.
Is that the story?
Yeah, I mean, we were at a stage where we were actually looking at getting more franchises, expanding. So I had validated my MVP even then. We had students who were getting credits and placements at universities like Princeton, Harvard, you name it. And then I tried to keep it on, tried to keep it running even after I moved to Bangalore. But I realized that that team that needed to be built had to be built while I was there.
Right. Okay. Excellent. Now, let's retouch a bit on JobsForHer. So, what is the future that you envision for your company?
So, I think the future that I envision for the company has more to do with the future I envision for the workplace. So, I envision a future where it won't be impossible for women to be able to achieve professional success as well as personal fulfillment, right? For a future where companies will not care about the gap in a woman's resume, where a woman, when she needs to take a break in her career because of her family's needs, she will not hesitate in doing that because she fears that her career will be jeopardized. I envision a future where our country will be able to grow by leaps and bounds because this entire pool of talented, qualified and experienced workforce will come back to help in our growth story.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, can you recommend any books or resources for our budding entrepreneurs?
Sure. I mean, there have been actually a lot of books that I have used to self-learn through this experience. Starting with 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel, then of course The Lean Startup by Eric Ries, which is a must read. Then there's also Growth Hacker Marketing, Traction, which are other good books to read during the journey.
Okay, brilliant, excellent. We'll link those on the show notes. Now, JobsForHer is 1.5 years old?
We're going to turn 1 year old on March 8th.
1 year, okay. But if you had to do things different while starting out, what would it be?
This time around, I knew my stuff. So I'm actually very happy about the way we started this. In fact, you'll be interested to know that we started JobsForHer out of social at Church Street. It's a co-working space. We worked there for the first 4-5 months and with a very small team. And we've done it extremely systematically from day one, right? We've been growing slowly, steadily, really understanding the process until we reach a stage where we can then have a high growth trajectory.
Okay, so you wouldn't change anything, right?
As of now, I'm happy to say I wouldn't.
Okay, that's great. Now, how can our listeners get in touch with you? Are you active on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook? Do you have a blog? What's the best way to
Sure, of course. I'm of course on all the channels. On Facebook and LinkedIn, I go by the name Neha JobsForHer. That's become my last name there.
Okay.
And on Twitter, I'm at Neha JFH.
Okay, great. We'll link those on the show notes so that people can reach out to you if they want to. So I just have one final question, but before I move on to that, I just want to take the time to acknowledge and thank you for sharing your knowledge to myself and our listeners. I'm also very grateful for the value you're adding into the world by means of your startup, and I think it's especially very important in India because I think the gap problem is gap in your career is a problem not just for women but even for men.
Right.
I think it's unfair, and I don't know why it has come in. So I'm really glad that you're doing something about it. So with that, we'll move on to the final question. So if there is one gyan that you could give our would-be founders, what would that be?
There's a lot that is out there that needs to be said. If there's one gyan, it will be kuch bhi karo lekin karo. Okay, I mean, get out there and do something. Step out of the building. You can make a difference. I mean, when I was on a break in my career, there is no way I would have thought that I could make an impact in so many women's lives. And today I'm overwhelmed by the prospect of it. So kuch bhi karo, lekin karo.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much, Neha, for your time, and it was a real pleasure chatting with you, and wish you continued success in your venture.
Thank you very much, Ram. Good luck to you too.
Thanks.
There you have it, folks. Episode 29 of FoundersGyan. We hope it was inspiring and fun to listen to. Don't forget the show notes at foundersgyan.com/EP29. Also, please recommend the show to your friends if you found it useful. The more people that listen to the show, the more inspired we would also be in producing more such episodes. Please make sure to check out our Facebook and Twitter pages at facebook.com/foundersgyan and twitter.com/foundersgyan. I'll see you all next week with yet another interesting and inspiring startup and founder. Till then, you know what this show was meant to do. I hope you got inspired and do take action on your own startup today. Thanks for tuning in and have a great week ahead.